Jazzy CEO. Welcome to another episode of Industry Talk Radio. Listen, this is a good episode today because we are reaching the masses, okay? If you are on, you can see Mike, producer. Say what's up to the people, Mike. All right, so if you don't know Mike, if you haven't been on the last three episodes, this is episode number 4 of the new season, season 7. Can you believe that? I didn't even know you for the first like 5 seasons, 6 seasons. I think I knew you, but I didn't really talk about it. So this is the 7th season. So right now we are live on YouTube, we are live on Facebook, and I just got the notification that we are live on LinkedIn. And of course, shout out to Riverside because we're live on Riverside. If you don't know how this works, you are in the live audience version of this, and that's why you can see the producer Mike. If you're watching this back, listening to it back on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, you won't see Mike, so don't think I'm talking to myself. I am not. It's a real human being. I'm not that crazy, even though it's a lot happening before I've even sipped my coffee. So let me do that now before I get into the nitty gritty of the show. Little ASMR for you. So, all right, today, what are we talking about? Today, we're going to be talking about a couple of things. Basically, we're going to be talking about how I ran after hours off of word of mouth for the first 4 years of business. I'm in my 5th year right now. We're talking about how to cash in on relationships, how to build relationships, how to even start the relationships that can help with word of mouth or having your business for multiple years. And then we're just going to talk about company and brand exposure. And it's a good episode for us to do today because Mike is also my executive assistant. And I didn't turn him into a podcast producer. I'd be sending him videos all the time, like, watch this, this is what we're going to do next. So I think that this is a good episode because we are about to start a like statewide campaign kind of thing. I'm not gonna go into too much details. Y'all be stealing, honey, and I ain't got time for that. So we are going to be doing a like statewide campaign kind of thing because, like I said in the intro, I've been living off word of mouth. So that what is that? What does that mean? That means I haven't had to run ads. I haven't had to put up billboards. I haven't had to pay marketers. I haven't had to do all these things that you see a lot of people doing, and I haven't had to run commercials. Like, and most people run commercials or ads just because, but sometimes people are doing it because they have to. So I was watching TV the other day with my girlfriend's daughter, and she was like, "Hey, have you ever seen a Pellegrino commercial?" And I was like, no. And then my girlfriend was like, that's because the other company is in all these restaurants now. Pellegrino is starting to have to face the music that they're not the popular choice anymore. And they actually finally have competition. I think Pellegrino has never had real competition. Like, there's a lot of sparkling waters, but Pellegrino was the one that was for fine dining. And so we're watching TV, and I just randomly see this Pellegrino commercial, and I'm like, oh, okay, they're starting to have to do marketing. But of course, they've been in business probably for 30 years, and it's time to let the new generation understand what Pellegrino is and why it is. So I understand that. But for me, at 5 years, I think that's where I'm at. There's a lot of transitions happening with my business and then the personal brand. So I think that living off word of mouth it's still a thing. It still happens. I mean, I literally, now I'm acting like a comedian bringing real life into business, but literally I'm on the phone with an insurance person and they're like, oh, do you know such and such? I was just talking to such and they mentioned you. And I'm like, geez, nothing's separate. You know, like if you leave an impression and if you leave a thought in somebody's head, they can mention you in rooms that you're not even in, or things like I got this person talking about me to the insurance person who I haven't even had the meeting with. So like, it's like a good thing, but it's like, good thing I'm good because it could have been differently where they were like, oh, don't do business with this person. So word of mouth is a big deal because it's really about the taste that you leave in people's mouths. Like, I got a smart mouth. I'm rude. So I'm surprised I've lasted this long off of word of mouth. But it's also like your character too, your integrity. Do you do what you say you're going to do? Things like that. So everybody that's watching that wants to start their own security company, You have to pay attention to that. Like starting today, like starting right now, pay attention to the taste that you're leaving in people's mouths. Literally, that's the best way I can describe how to leave your impression. Everybody's like, "Oh, the first impression is the most important." No, 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 no. Every part of the impression is important. What they see, how you act when you get back the next time, when you come around other people, when you're doing business or when you're on leisure. Like all these things definitely, absolutely, definitely matter. So living off word of mouth and exposure in that way was great for me. Even if, even though the fact I started like literally during the pandemic, um, it was like, what the heck am I doing starting during something like like the Great Depression? Like, I mean, I didn't live through the Great Depression, but for me in my what is it? My not genre, but like my age group. That's what it was for us. Like we couldn't go outside. We couldn't. I had lost the job I had because it was shut down because of COVID. We couldn't do anything that was normal anymore. We couldn't do it. I just realized that people, like kids, were out of school for 2 years, and it's just like a lot of stuff that is like, the after hours has lived through. So anything that you go through after living off word of mouth, building 100 grand, the first 100 grand off word of mouth, or building a six-figure business off word of mouth, it's like, okay, all the things I went through to get to that point, to get to the $1 million valuation, to get to all of that, whatever happens from this point on is not as big as that. And I think it's perspective. And I'm talking to you guys and I'm talking to myself, like, we all go through things during business. It doesn't matter if you out at fancy restaurants or not. There's problems on each level of business. And that's why building relationships is a really good aspect to speak on, because it's something that we don't really talk about that much. Oh, you want you want 1 million followers, you want this, you want that. But in the real world, are there people who are going to connect you with who you need to be connected to, look out for you when you need to be looked out for, borrow from, give to, like hold you down, and I think that is why this episode on relationships is one to watch, because if I can build relationships and I get smart every 2 seconds, you can build relationships too, because I am not that much of a people person. So look, we're gonna go through all the different events. All right, so I talked about how we're going to be doing a campaign, and poor Michael, I had him go to most of these events with me. Either he was with me, he was driving, I'm trying to talk about stuff in the back seat, work through this on the computer, we whipping and running. But all of this was because I was like, okay, it's time for me to kind of bump up the company exposure. It's time for me to be like, okay, here I am, CEO of After Hours. Let's put After Hours out there. Let's put myself out there. I made a lot of strategic moves in 2024. In 2024, I moved to the Baltimore Peninsula. That was a strategic move. Yes, beautiful place, lovely apartments. It's definitely a growing and place with a lot of potential and beautiful. It's on the water. So of course that was a plus, but I could have moved anywhere. I could have saved money and moved here. I could have done anything. But I saw that there was an opportunity to grow my business in that place. And so the strategic move, the first strategic move in this exposure campaign was, now listen, this is where you start taking out your pen and paper and your notes, okay? Because this is when I start dropping jewels. I can feel it in my chest that the Pastor Lee about to come out. So listen, the first strategic move was I was Christopher Columbus. I found an untouched area that was still touched because it did have an actual security company, but I did not care. So I found an untapped market and I decided to go live inside of it. Okay, I found the market and I decided to go live inside of it so that I would be exposed to the people I need to be exposed to 24/7. 24/7, whether I was coming in the house from dinner, whether I was going out from my cigar and coffee, whether I was doing this, whether I was doing that. I had to find an untapped market that was just for me. And when I say Christopher Columbus, that's because the Native Americans were here, but he did what he did, and here we are, right? So there was a security company. There is still a security company on the ground at the peninsula, but I saw staffing. I saw how they were. I watched. I learned. I saw what was going on, and I realized that they weren't in certain places on the peninsula, and that's where I went after. That's what I pitched. Those are the relationships I built. Those are the things I did. So if you were on my social media, then you saw us in Bar Vegan, you saw us in Slutty Vegan, you saw us doing things inside of Rye House, you saw us doing things where they had the skating rink that came there. Like we were making strategic moves all the while that's where I lived, right? So that's what I'm saying. If you're going to start trying to get exposure, you have to pick what you want to do. And when I teach private detective stuff, I always tell people to figure out their niche, right? And so I've been figured out my niche. I know my niche, backhand festivals, events, things like that, right? I grew up with my mom doing weddings and things like that and running the day of events and things. So that is where my niche originated from. That's where it came from. So I knew that, and so I was like, okay, while this security company is working the day to day, they're going to need a source to work the events, to do this, to do that. And so that's what I end up doing, right? And so I end up doing that. And then it kind of even took off. I end up being in their commercial. And then, and the relationship is continuously growing to this day. And so sometimes you have to mix your personal and you mix your business and you kind of put it together and make opportunities for you to get exposure for your brand or for your company, right? It's not just social media. Social media can definitely make people millionaires. It does it every day. I am just not a social media person, so it doesn't really work for me. So I excel in person, and that's how I got the commercial. That's how I got in the brand new restaurant. That's how I got in there because I'm good face to face, people to people, right? And that's how I got brand exposure. We're at all the events, and so now I'm going to tell you my entire tour that I had while I was working this, get my face out there, get my business out there kind of thing. And this was in Mike, I want to say like maybe 3 months, 2 months. It could have been less than that, but I don't know. What do you think? How you think it was a 2 months? Yeah. I want to say maybe a 2 month run, right? A 2 month run. So I'm just gonna read to y'all all the events, and I might even forgot one, but we tried to make a list, and then we're gonna discuss strategic reasoning behind the events, and then and then we're gonna get into some questions, and let's do it. All right. So the first event was the Ravens tailgate at the Butterfly Room, the grand opening of Under Armour, and before the grand opening, I had a private tour of the Under Armour store. My first Chamber of Commerce meeting for Baltimore County, uh, the Baltimore Together Summit. I went to Felicia Porter's council uh, woman, the Felicia Porter, who's the councilwoman for District 10. I went to her. I think it was a Give Back Christmas event. Don't worry, y'all live in the city. You're gonna hear sirens. That's life. Then I went to Slutty Vegan's grand opening, Bar Vegan's grand opening, UMBC women's basketball tournament. I went to Genius Talk by Katie, the guy who actually put the deal together for Slutty Vegan and Bar Vegan to be in the Baltimore Peninsula. And then I went to 10K Small Business Meeting. I went to the MBE night in Annapolis. I went to the GBLA Urban League event at Bar Vegan, and I also went to something called Gracism in the Sky, and then I had my own event called Protect Your Wealth, and that right there is like 14 events by itself. Mike, do you think I forgot any? Yeah, I think that was all of them. Yeah, for that Yeah, and maybe while I'm talking, I might remember some, but I'm pretty sure that's all of them. I mean, needless to say, that's 14 events in uh, 2 months, and we only got like what 8 weeks. Like so, that's 14 events in 8 weeks. All right, so let's start at the top, man, and you can chime in. You were pretty much at all of these except for you were at all of these except for the Slutty Vegan opening and the Gracism in the Sky. That was the only two you weren't at. Everything else you were there. All right, so let's start. Oh, in the Ravens tailgate. But let's start with Ravens tailgate. So here's what I was doing. Okay, what I was doing was people would invite me places, and I would say okay, and I wouldn't go. Period. I would, yeah, sure, all right. What time is it? I'll see you there, and I wouldn't show up. Right. But that's not how you nourish relationships. And why is this? Why is a Ravens tailgate something important? Well, the Butterfly Room is a client of mine, right? So the people, the owners, the people who manage it, those people are the relationships you're supposed to be nourishing. And sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone to nourish those relationships. So going to something that you're invited to, I've already probably didn't go to like 2 or 3 things. I think, you know what I'm saying, before, just in the whole relationship time frame. So I went to this tailgate. Now my officers we were working the tailgate. So I went there and one of my officers were working the tailgate, and then I went there, had brought another officer with me, and we had dinner and we sat there and we giggled and we laughed and talked to the client's husband and all that stuff, right? And it's just like, oh, I love her, da, da, da. Because that is what you have to do to keep this type of business going. Because there's a million security companies, like literally in the same realm of space. There's a million, but there's only one of you. There's only one of you having the conversation with this person. There's only one of you talking to this person, building this relationship with this person. So certain clients, they're going to have other opportunities for you. The Butterfly Room wasn't the original client. We actually, where Iconic is right now, downtown on Guilford, that used to be a assembly room. And I worked at assembly room through Wolf Security. That's how I met the owner. And then when the owner sold that and went to a new space, they was like, hey, we want you. We don't want Wolf. Wolf is a major company. You don't want Wolf and you want me. Why? Because of the relationship. Because of how I treated them, because of how I cared, and it wasn't just me showing up as a guard, like, this is just a little side job, I don't care about it, right? It was how I nourished that relationship. Then later on in life, after starting my own company, boom, they reached out. They wanted me to come in. They let go of the major company. That's major news because you always think that it's an oversaturated industry and the bigger guys are always going to win, and that's not necessarily true. It depends on how you do business, how you move, your integrity, how you do this, how you do that. That's what's going to leave the taste in their mouth. All right, so Ravens tailgate was good. I was definitely late. I'm late to everything. Mike, were we late to about all these events, or I think maybe the basketball game we was on time because we just didn't know. We was super on time for the basketball game. But I think everything else you didn't go to the chamber meeting. Yeah, I don't think you were. I don't think you had came on as in that I have through the peninsula, through building a relationship with land. Listen, if you guys have never, you know what, I'm gonna look it up real quick. If you guys have never seen that freaking McDonald's movie, you guys gotta watch it. Like if you're gonna do business, you gotta watch the McDonald's movie. I'm looking it up right now. Give me 2 seconds. McDonald's movie. It's called The Founder. One of the best movies I've ever seen. It's not a favorite movie. Like if somebody asks me what my favorite movies, I'm saying Paid in Full. I'm not saying The Founder. But if they're talking about books to read or movies to watch that pertain to business, The Founder is hands down one of the best business movies I've ever seen, because you don't know whether to like this guy that's in the movie or hate the guy and feel bad for the McDonald's people. Like it was just super genius, and it was a relationship building kind of movie, and it kind of taught you like have paperwork in order, which is what we talked about on the last episode, where we talked about I almost had to pay $7,000 out of pocket for an insurance situation. for stolen property. So it teaches you about that. It teaches you about land. I think if you guys also don't know, read Fawn Weaver's book, because she talks about owning the land. And for me, the land could be digital, the land could be physical, like metaphorical. It has to be like the land has to be whatever something sits on, basically. Whatever you can control something with. So for Fawn, she was buying a bank. The bank wouldn't sell to her. So when she couldn't buy the bank, she bought the land that the bank sat on. And I might have all the details mixed up, but basically she bought the land that the bank sits on, and now the land or the building, land basically, now the bank basically pays her a lease, pays the rent to her. They had like a 50-year lease, can't get out of it. Now she owns the land or owns the building, and you could have just sold her the bank, but you didn't want to, and now she owns you for real, for real. So either way, owning the land. And I don't want to tell the plot of the founder story if you don't know it because I think it's really good. So, but that's just my little tidbit. Go watch the founder if you want to understand why planting seeds in something like the peninsula is like owning land. So, the next thing you want to do is the next thing I did was one of my connects invited me to some of these events. That's another thing. Start taking invitations. Start taking invitations. If you need to do invitations, start taking invitations. Stop saying no or stop. I want to say stop lying. If you're an introvert like me, stop saying you're going and you're not going. If you're not going, just say you're not going. Be like, man, invite me to the next one. I know it's hard because I know it's hard. I'm an introvert with extrovert tendencies, so I will be the life of the party. And as soon as I leave you, I won't leave the house for 3, 4 days. Then I gotta call Mike to jump my car. Like it's that serious. He's had to do it. It's not a lie. So with the grand opening thing, I did a private tour first. I got invited to do a private tour. I got to see how their stuff was set up and how their stuff. And the reason why I wanted a private tour is because I knew the regular one was going to be packed. I wanted to get my own footage. I wanted to do the thing, but I really wanted to kind of see what the big deal was, what the ins and outs of this place, how was the inner workings, how were they setting it up? Because even though I don't own a clothing store, sometimes business is business. And there's just a lot you can learn from the ground up, okay? And full circle, where this building is, where the peninsula is, where this building is, where all the Port Covenant, I used to work there for another security company before I owned my security company. So it's a full circle moment living on the land that I used to protect, making 15, 16, $17 an hour, right? I used to make minimum wage protecting the land, and now I live on the land. Now my company works on the land. Now I have contracts on the land. Like, let me tell you something, that kind of stuff is full circle for real, right? And even now, we're upping the game. We're growing and expanding that relationship, and it's just still a full circle moment where I'm like, okay, it's growth season. Here we are once again at a pivotal moment, but look where you started from. You used to ride around making $15 an hour protecting this land, thinking, man, I wish I could live here, or man, I can't wait to see what they do. But now you're in the inner workings. You're going to get there one day. This is me talking to those people who want to start their companies, who have already started, who it's a little hard. You might be distracted. You might be discouraged. Trust me, they're going to have that full circle moment. You're going to have that moment where it goes, ha ha, this was on my vision board, right? So that's what the private tour of the Under Armour, that was why I wanted to do that, because I wanted to have those moments and learn those little things and ask questions without it being a bunch of people, right? So you take that, everything's a learning tool. Everything's a learning tool. So then the next day, I think it was the next day or maybe the next week, was the actual grand opening of Under Armour. And that is where Mike was with me. Were you with me on both times? I think he was with me both times. Tell me, like, what your experience was like doing it privately first and then going to the grand opening. Like, what was some of the experiences or the differences you saw? Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about the kids. Yeah. So with those differences, I feel like for people looking to figure out how to get more exposure, you're like a private tour doesn't get you exposure. Right. The private tour got you exposure to the people who work in the store or the people who run the store or the owner or because now you're there just them. And now one is it's a what do you call it? It's how people see things. So it's like, wait, who's this person with a private tour? Like, what are they doing? And so now it's like how people perceive you ahead of time. So then they see you again and they have this thought process of you because you had that private tour. It's a lot. It was that for me as well because a perceived value in having me there or around sometimes it's true or not because sometimes I just got connections and I got in, which was what happened this time. I had a connection, I got in, I used the connection, boom. No, I didn't like have some super stake in the business and da da da, nothing like that. But that's what it looked like. That was the perceived value. Like, oh, let me show her around. That happened. That happened in Under Armour, and then later on that happened with a bar vegan slutty vegan employee as well. Like I've been told like, oh, I saw you at this and you were there, so I was like, oh, she's this, that, and the third. I never had to say that I was, but carrying yourself and going into these places and doing these things like that makes you seem like that. And it's kind of like a fake it till you make it kind of thing. Like sometimes you gotta just put yourself in these positions so that you can seem like the big dog on campus until you become the big dog on campus. Because if you continuously want and wish for things instead of acting in them, I'm acting in them. I'm already a millionaire. I'm acting in it. Okay, so I'm already yachting, private jetting, and eating fine dining. I'm already living in it because I know that that is the destiny that I am going to be. Right. So sometimes you have to do it like that, and that's kind of why I did the both things. I didn't just wait to the grand opening. I did the private tour and the grand opening because I knew it would be two different type of people at each thing. And that's basically what he was saying. Like we got the private tour, we got the get the questions and the answers and da 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 da. So now when I go to the grand opening, I'm the one with the information. I seem like I know a lot because I had that private tour already. I can answer questions or I can give little tidbits, and it's kind of like going and studying your prey before you pounce on them. Basically, it's hunting. The whole thing, the whole game is hunting. You're hunting contracts, you're hunting clients, you're hunting good employees, you da 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 da. It's all hunting. So now at the grand opening, I'm gonna skip to let me see, two of these actually. So two things happened at the grand opening. I met the UMBC athletic director. Then we had a meeting, and then we got invited to. We got tickets to the basketball game. We got a tour of the place. Preparing for whatever whenever they end up having a bid on security. So like when bids come up, usually when bids come up, you're just like, okay, you have a pre-bid thing and they take you on a tour. But we already done it. So we already know what they want, know what the budget's like. We already know the director and the president. We already know these people. So now we're going to get in early to know these things. And when the opportunity actually comes up, we're fully prepared because we studied, we hunted, we learned, we did all those things. So if you don't learn anything else from the rest of the list, understand that perceived value of yourself, of your company, of what you can do, whatever. You know how people they write out those capability statements and they put out, oh, we can do this, we're able to do this, we're taught in this, we're da da da. It's the same kind of thing. You want to have that perceived value when you walk into these rooms, and so that's why you do certain things. You go to certain games, you go to here, you take pictures, you do video, so it's a lasting image. Okay, I left you, but now I'm gonna post this video next week, and now you remember me. Now I'm gonna post this picture in my stories. Then the week after, now you remember me. That is why I was doing these events because I was creating a exposure element, a long lasting exposure element. But you have to be able to cash in those exposure elements in relationships, and you have to kind of what am I looking for? You have to expand on them in that time frame. And that's where a lot of people, the momentum, yes, trading momentum is basically what I'm saying. So you have to learn how to use momentum to your benefit. Once you create 14 events in 2 months is momentum. I'm shaking hands, I'm kissing babies, I'm learning, I'm taking cards, I'm emailing, I'm doing all that. Boom, boom, right? This is where you learn, like, okay, it's time to execute on these things. If you drop the ball and just let time go, time is going to kill those relationships. Time is going to kill those interactions, and time is going to kill those opportunities because they didn't moved on. They didn't met the new security company person. And now that person is doing this and bringing that. I was trying to get in with somebody one time, went to two of their events, met them, and we're still cool. They just don't have a need for my business at the moment. But the second time, I brought them cigars because I had found out that they smoke cigars, and I brought them cigars, right? And now every time I see him, he's like, "Oh, Jazz, hey, I smoked that cigar you gave me." He tells me every time. Like he hasn't just smoked it. He smoked it a long time ago, but every time he sees me, he talks about that cigar because that is the taste I left in his mouth. That sounded weird, but you know what I meant. So, all right. So Under Armour, all that. We saw the director of athletics for UMBC. Obviously, that is what kind of events those people will be at. But then we also saw the mayor, and that's how we connected with Felicia Porter. And then that was connection off something that I wore, right? And so this is why this is like a learning thing for you guys, because it's like little things can connect you with people. You never know what people's likes are, right? So it's good to authentically be you and live in your truth. I like golf, I like cigars, I like bourbon, I like fedoras, I like this. So if I put that in the forefront or show that on a regular basis, and people who like that, who have opportunities from it, that's where we're going to connect at. That's why you see so many deals happening on the golf course or the gun range or over, drinks and stuff like that, because commonality is what really signs on the dotted line. Excuse me. All right, so that event took us to the Felicia Porter Councilwoman event, which was a give back. We met people, took some photos with Santa. We talked to other people in the community. I met people in the district. And then we, posted about that. And now that person, whenever I see Felicia Porter, y'all should go follow her. She's doing great things in the community. She's for District 10. Her and the mayor are working on a lot of health care things. And so now that's a connection, and when something comes up with that, something that benefits her, I'm going to reach out to her. Something that benefits me, she reaches out to me because we made that connection over a fedora, over a hat. And then the next time I saw her, I wore an even better hat. Like, I know you remember me now because this is an even better hat. And then literally, she was like, "Oh my God, let me see the hat." So you have to tap into those relationships and nourish them, even in those little tiny ways, right? So the Under Armour event took us to the Felicia Porter Councilwoman event. And then the Under Armour event also took us to the UMBC Women's Basketball Tournament. That took us to that as well, to put in that little seed, to plant that seed for when they ever need security as well. So that took us there. Now, if we back up a little bit, then it all kind of stems back to moving to the peninsula too, because the next one we did, again, I don't know these in order, but the next one we did was Baltimore Together Summit, and that basically is an event, one of many. I think there's like 3 events just like this, but that's an event that basically goes over money stuff for the city, how money is spent, how you should spend your money, financial things, budgets, the mayor's budget, all kinds of stuff when it comes to city finances and government bidding and things like that. All of that is in that event, and it tells you how much the city spent the prior year. So if it was 2024, they're talking about 2023. When 2025 come up, they're talking about 2024. And then they had some entrepreneurs speak and things like that, and they even had somebody from the United States Treasury speak as well and talk about what Baltimore does and what they put in and take out of the Treasury and all that kind of stuff. So it it was an interesting thing, and it helps you learn your business, but it helps you learn business as a whole without going to school, right? Just like YouTube University. But when you go to these places, you can give out your cards, you can shake hands. I linked up at this event, I linked up with a lawyer, and we end up having the last event on my list, which was protect your wealth. This particular lawyer's assistant was there, met me, we connected, and they talk about trust and they talk about having things set up for kids in college and things like that. And so I had a cigar event and we had them come out, talk to the officers and students and stuff about these things and how to get your trust started and how to save your money and get your money into the right place and things like that, right? So these things always link together, right? They link together. So now I'm going through my list seeing who linked with who. Now the only one that doesn't link to any of these is the first Chamber of Commerce meeting. I am a member of the Greater Baltimore Chamber of Commerce, which really is Pikesville, Reisterstown, that area. I used to live over there as well. And we do a lot of business over there in that side of town. We do the farmers market over there in that side of town. And so that is the Chamber of Commerce that I'm in. And that is just a plethora of connections. And there's a plethora of reasons why you should become a part of some sort of Chamber of Commerce. Now, I had been a member of this chamber maybe 3 years. Never been to one meeting. So during this campaign, I was calling the face-to-face campaign because it was me actually coming out of my house and actually going places. So in this campaign, I went to one of these meetings and, of course, connected with people, end up getting a client, a major client. I ain't going to say no names because I don't need y'all in my B and IE. I only mention stuff that was already on the dotted line. But I have a contract out right now with a major client from that Chamber of Commerce meeting. Now, let's just break it down. It was my first Chamber of Commerce meeting, and technically, as of right now, the only one I went to, and I got a major client from there with 3 dates on contract right now. So that just goes to show you that if I had continuously went to these things, if I went to these things on a regular basis, then maybe those opportunities would come on a regular basis. So this is just to prove to you that getting out there is very important. Word of mouth is what I thrive on, but now it's time to get more mouths involved, more words to come out. So let me go to these events I've never been to, right? So that was Chamber of Commerce. And if you don't know what a Chamber of Commerce is, just Google it, study it a little bit. It's basically a group of people who make sure that community's business world is good with resources and opportunities, and they work together, and there's a lot of grand openings, and it's just good. It's good to have that in place, and then that actually isn't linked to the other stuff, but that's linked to the 2 things. That's linked to the 10K small business, and that's linked to the MBE night in Annapolis. So I'm gonna go through the 10K small business one. The 10K small business is literally it's a, I guess, program that they put businesses in, and they help them get their finances and their paperwork and all their structural and foundation stuff together, essentially. Right, Mike? What do you think? That's essentially what it is. Like, they help them get their money and their foundation together, I want to say. Yeah, I think, go ahead. Yeah, we got a 14 list, so we're gonna go with that. I thought about that when I looked at the time. We're gonna go a little. So this is gonna be a little a longer one this time. So 40. All right, but I'm not going too far over. I ain't gonna hold y'all too much. But we are live on all these platforms, so I do want to get through these. So y'all lucky. I feel like talking to y'all today. But so yeah, so it's basically 10K small business. Definitely look it up. If you're new in business, that is definitely something that you want to get into if you have the time. I just personally didn't have the time during the summer. We do so many festivals during the summer that I'm usually on the ground, boots on the ground. That song, we don't fancy. But I'm usually on the ground, so it was just too much of a commitment for me. But I do think it's something that I want to do, and it was really good, and it does help you with getting connected financially with the right places and people, and it helps you with your books. Let me tell you something: finances, insurance, finances, taxes, all that stuff. Bookkeeping is difficult, so doing it alone, you shouldn't if you don't have to, right? So 10K Small Business, they're connected with the Greater Baltimore Chamber of Commerce, so I got exposed to that, and then I went, and then I got exposed to somebody there. I think his name is Renard, who sends us grants. He sends us money opportunities, office. Like connected with him is great. Like I read everything I don't read everybody's emails, but I read everything he sends, even if I don't respond, because there's always something in there that could be beneficial. So then that led us to MBE night in Annapolis. One, I don't go to Annapolis a lot, so I thought it was a good opportunity to go to Annapolis. We went out there. We ate at the Chop Tank in Annapolis. If you know me, you know I like yachts. I like boats, so I like going to anything that's on the pier or a dock or something like that. So that was good. It was Chop Tank. It wasn't nothing crazy. And if you know me, you also know I'm an Atlaser, so anything there I try as well. So that was good. And then we went to the actual event. It was a lot of people. Let me tell you, my introvertness snapped on so fast. My anxiety snapped on so I was like, I don't want nothing to do with these people. I don't want them to touch me. I don't want to talk to them. I was like, hey, Mike, here you go. Here go a stack of cards. Bye. So that's how that went. Like, because think about it. We're talking about 14 events. And I think the MBE night was the last one. I think it might have been the last one. Because it was definitely after Protect Your Wealth. Yeah, it might have been the last. It might have been the one right before GBLA Urban League, but yeah, that one I think I was worn out, but it was cool. I had people with me that was helpful, and they went and talked to people and they gave out cards, and I did the more research side. So I'm gonna give you a tidbit too. Any speaker, anybody who's presenting, anybody who's stands up, anybody who's announced, I looked them up. And I research them, and I see how I can connect with them on a personal level. And I look them up on LinkedIn or Facebook or something like that. Connect with them, become friends. Because if they're in the room that you want to be in, but you can't necessarily speak to them, maybe you can speak to them through social media. Because social media is technically a networking space and room. Seriously. So I do that as well. So I did that part. I did the more introverted thing, which was digitally, and I had everybody else do the other side. So that was good. Those right there. If you don't have your MBE, SBE, DBE, SBA, all these buzz that you need to do government contracting, you should definitely look into that. I definitely teach that in my mastermind, which the link will be in this description. I teach that in my mastermind, how to get different streams if you're a PI company, a security company, or firearm training company, and that is one of the streams. And MBE night was great. It taught a lot. And one of the things was that if you can't do these government contracts on your own, start a coalition. Get a couple of other like-minded business owners that do the same thing as you and bring your resources together and then pitch or bid on these government contracts. So that is what I'm currently doing. I have a meeting today for one with a coalition member. I've been emailing with a different coalition member about a different one. And then, so I'm really doing that. And there's just a lot of money out here for everybody. And I think that when people work together, that's how it goes. And then I'm going to talk about Gracism in the Sky last. So Genius Talk, Bar Vegan, Slutty Vegan, and the GBLA. All of those are the same because Slutty Vegan came into the neighborhood where I live. So they opened first. I did research on who the power players were in that, and that's how I came upon somebody named KD, and that's how I end up dealing with them on a professional level. KD is a deal maker, deal crusher, deal whatever in the business of everything. And so he also had an event called Genius Talk where he taught people how to trade time, how to maximize momentum and exposure, exactly what we're talking about today. And so he had a a conference sort of thing, like a fireside chat event called Genius Talk in the penthouse of the Peninsula. And so he is one of the deal makers for Slutty. So that's how that's connected. So I went to that event trying to get in front of those people, which it worked. We end up doing work for him. We end up doing work for Slutty Vegan. Bar Vegan, same thing. They had their grand opening, I think maybe a week or two later. We did security at that event as well, and the connections just kept going with that. So those three events are the same, and then why the GBLA Urban League event was the same is because that event actually took place at Bar Vegan. So I didn't even have to go far to go to most of these events and make most of these connections. It happened in my backyard, literally. So it's just all about being strategic about the environment you put yourself in, the people you put yourself around, and the things and goals that you have. I don't like to do long-term goals. I like to only do short-term goals because I like momentum. I like to get on it. Boom, 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 boom. Let's do it. Boom, 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 boom. If I spread stuff out too far, it won't get done, and it won't get worked on, and it won't get worked towards. And everybody know faith is dead without works. So works is dead without faith. Whatever. So you can't have one without the other. You got to be faithful that it'll happen, but you also got to work towards it in that faith moment. So I think that all these things were a product of me deciding, am I going to do what I need to do personally, or am I going to do what I need to do businessly? And if you guys, I'm going to link this article. I was featured in a magazine, and I'm going to link this article because I talked about me moving to the Peninsula and why, and the strategy behind it. So all those events were connected by each other in some way. Now, the last event I'm going to talk about before we wrap it up. The last event I'm going to talk about is Gracism in the Sky. This is an exclusive private event, okay? If you're on my Instagram, I am Jazzy CEO. If you go on my Instagram, the 3 top pictures on there, the first one is not Gracism, but the 2 other ones is Gracism in the Sky. Been the last 2 years. It is basically a leadership conference on a private jet. It's a leadership conference on a private jet. You fly to wherever your destination is. You go to a couple of places during the day, and you fly there, and you learn so much just by the process of getting there. I think the last time my transportation to get to the jet was the Tesla truck, and it drove me by itself. And I was like, I do not like this. But then the second time I was like, this is pretty cool. But that was an experience I never had. There's a lot of people that have Tesla trucks. I'm not one of those people. So it was an experience that I never had. And it was interesting because I met someone who was like, I have this truck to learn how to hack the truck. Because they, by trade, are an ethical hacker. So this is a write-off for me because it's actually training for me. What? My guy, what are you saying? But I'm telling you, being around people with different mindsets and different life experiences of things or places or a level you want to be in, that's where you need to be sitting yourself. There's no reason to be sitting around a table with a bunch of people that have been doing the same thing for the last 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years, because you'll never get exposed to that. And that was just driving to the private airport. I'm driving to the airport, and that's what I was saying. Hey, I'm writing this off because technically this is a training tool for me. I don't know how much them trucks cost, but I mean, I'm sure they're expensive. So I'm writing this off as a training tool, and then it probably weighs, and they probably got another tax credit for that because it weighs over 6,000 pounds. And so I'm writing this off because it's a training tool, because I'm trying to learn how to hack the system so that I can pitch to Tesla my business. What? I mean, I don't know. That's just genius. I don't know. That's freaking genius, because it's not like he doesn't already do it. This is actually his business. This is what he does. He goes in, helps companies see their open and their vulnerability spots, fixes them. Hey, look, I can hack you. I can fix it too. Boom, like that, right? So, and now we got a connection. Now, anytime I come across something that has to do with cybersecurity or this or that, he's like, hey, subcontract me, let's do this. That's just on the car ride. I didn't even get to the actual conference yet. We didn't even get to the airport yet, right? So I do this every year because it exposes me to places and things and people that I want to be like, that I want to do, that I want to go, and that I want to live in, the lifestyle, right? So that Gracism in the Sky is a spiritually led leadership conference, and it's basically about being a leader in these times, this political climate, this economical climate, but leading with God first and leading with gracism and leading with empathy, and then also being strategic business wise, money wise. And so it kind of wraps your whole, you know, realm financially, spiritually, all that together, physically, all that together. It wraps it all together. So it's really good. So you have to find, I do suggest finding some sort of leadership conference as an owner that you can sit around other owners or other C level people, because everybody that's C level and everybody that's six figure and up, seven figure up, they're not always the owner of the company, but they are some sort of executive suite people too. So I can't even name the people that's on the plane because you're just not supposed to, obviously. So just know that it is people in these major products that you see every day, and it's these people on these televisions shows that you see every day, and it's just that we're all in the same room, and I'm like, well, how did I get here? But I got there because of a relationship that turned into a business relationship, that turned into a spiritual relationship, that turned into a friendship. So it's really all about nourishing these relationships in order to get your business to the next level. There's a million ways to become successful. I'm only sharing the way I became successful and the way I'm becoming more successful, and relationship building and word of mouth, and leading with a great presentation of yourself, and then leaving a great impression of yourself. That's how I did it as well. And so that's why, I did all these events, because it was necessary to get the face of the company back out there, because I think we had been doing business so long with just the after hours, after hours, after hours. People didn't know who owned it. People were coming to work. People were coming to work for me, and then I would say something to them on post, and they would look at me like I'm crazy because they didn't know I was the owner. And so, and now I gotta have that conversation like, I said, fix your shirt. I don't understand. You know what I mean? But I think it was that time where it was time to get new people, new word of mouth subjects, and put my face out there and kind of be out there. And I think it worked very well. And then this new campaign that we're doing is not so out there. We're doing a whole different thing. Now we're going to do the digital side of that. But if it had happened together in one thing, then that momentum. So I want y'all to understand and not drop the bag on momentum. Like not drop the ball on momentum. You want to feed into that momentum while you got it. Like literally. Mike, anything you want to add? Or ask or add before we get to the wrap up in the word of the day. Okay, so for the playback, did Mike asked me, did my strategy work? Um, did it work going to all these events? I want to say absolutely. It absolutely worked, and it actually worked faster than I thought. And the only thing that I think I did wrong as far as did it work is that I didn't have the ability to jump on the digital part of the campaign right away. A lot of things happen. A partner, a video didn't come through. A partner thing didn't come through. Paperwork, like a couple of things the ball got dropped on some stuff, and so I wasn't able to attach the digital campaign to the face-to-face campaign. So I think that's what I did wrong there. But there's going to be always an event. Like somebody I met at the Urban League event, I have a meeting with at 2 o'clock, at 1 o'clock actually, and they're an investor. So we're having an investor meeting. So I do think it worked because of things like that. I do think I was in those right places because of things like going to the basketball game, the things like the meeting KD and having security at Bar Vegan stuff. So it absolutely worked. I would never even have been at those most of those opening if I didn't move to the peninsula. So I do think it worked. I think once I learned it worked, if I could have jumped on the digital portion, it would have worked even better. So now that I know that, if I was to do that type of thing again, where I bust out a bunch of different events, I would have the next part ready already, so that there would be no gap in time. But yeah, I definitely think it worked. I definitely think it's something that people should do. Get yourself out there, expose yourself to different people and new people, find a group of people that can teach you. So I do think it worked. And just to even say that, I always throw out, my how to protect yourself ending. So the ending here with that question is like, always protect yourself. Like, I knew I needed to switch it up. If you know you need to pivot and you know something's not working, if it's not working multiple times, multiple ways, then it's time to stop trying that same thing. I think that's like the definition of crazy, trying to doing the same thing over and over, thinking it's going to be a different outcome or something like that, right? So if you know that it's time to switch it up and it's time to pivot, protect yourself by listening to that thought process, listening to that little word, whatever you want to say, your intuition, the universe, God, whatever you think it is, listen to that and go into that. Like, don't be scared to pivot or change. And for me, it was to switch it up and gain exposure in a different way. And then most of the time I always do one. So I do always protect yourself in. But now I want you to know that you also deserve to be protected, right? Because I deserve to be protected. You deserve to be protected. For me, in this situation, on this subject, I deserve to continue doing what I love, and I deserve to continue to teach people how to do what I want them to know, which is how to protect themselves, when to do it, what to do it with. And in order for me to protect that legacy, I have to be exposed. I have to be insured. I have to be under contract. So all these things are my ways of protecting my legacy, which is protecting people and teaching people how to protect themselves. So in the moment where you're like, I need to do something different, I think you need to listen to yourself in order to protect yourself. I figured out my way, and you got to figure out your way how to execute your self protection. So that's my word of the day. My word of the day is listen to that voice, figure out how to execute protecting yourself, because you deserve to be protected. If you're doing something and this is your purpose in the world, you deserve to continue doing it. But yes, it's the real world. We have to do certain things in order to keep that our processes going, our business is going. So don't sleep on that kind of stuff. Anything else? I think we're good. I think you got 58 freaking minutes of some good insight on exposure, word of mouth, relationship building. And if you have any questions, you can drop your questions in the DM on Industry Talk Podcast on Instagram or Facebook. You can drop it in the comments on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can also follow us at everything on Industry Talk Podcast, on Spotify, on iHeartRadio. And also, if you want to ask questions before the next show, and you want me to answer them on air, if you want to promote your business or your company or your event or whatever it is, your brand, whatever it is, you can also get your stuff promoted. Just send it to industrytalkpodcast@gmail.com. Shoot us a DM on social media. But in the meantime, in between time, make sure you like, you subscribe, you share, you comment. Even if you don't like it, say, I ain't like it, it all works, it all goes to the algorithm. So make sure you do that. Thank you for tuning in. Tune in next Wednesday, 11 a.m. We should have a guest on next week, and we're doing a live board meeting right here on the show. So make sure y'all tune in for that. Mike, thank you. All right. See you next week, guys.